ask your NZ travel questions to the experts behind nzpocketguide.com, New Zealand's largest travel guide. The NZ Travel Show will start in exactly 2 minutes. Just the time for you to hit the like button, ring the notification bell, and subscribe if you have not done so yet. nzpocketguide.com has over 3,000 articles covering all aspects of travelling in New Zealand, from a working holiday gap year to tips for a perfect family holiday. The site also features dozens of pre-made itineraries that you can use to plan your ideal trip in New Zealand. It's all available for free at nzpocketguide.com, so check it out. The NZ Travel Show is hosted by Robin, the Operations Manager of South Pacific Pocket Guide, the company behind nzpocketguide.com. The New Zealand Travel Show is also hosted by Laura, a journalist and editor-in-chief of South Pacific Pocket Guide and all its publications, including nzpocketguide.com. We're exactly 1 minute away from the NZ Travel Show. Get yourself comfortable and start asking your NZ travel questions in the chat. Robin and Laura will go over them when the show starts. In 30 seconds, our experts will be live from New Zealand to give you all the practical New Zealand travel tips you need, from the best transport options to the best accommodations and activities to choose for the perfect New Zealand holiday. Live from New Zealand, this is the NZ Travel Show with your travel experts, Robin and Laura.
Good morning, everybody. I hope that everybody is doing fantastic. It is Sunday, the 18th of August. It is 8 a.m. right here on our side of the world. And today we are here for a bit of an exceptional show, aren't we, Laura? Something a little bit different than usual. But first, explain the good people how this show works.
Okay, so every Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time, we come onto the live show for you guys to ask your New Zealand travel questions directly into the live chat. We're here for an entire hour, so you can ask anything you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be to do with the theme of the show that we tend to do a certain theme once per week. But yeah, let us know any of the questions that you have. If you do miss the live show, you can ask your questions in the comments section of any of our YouTube videos, and we also respond to comments there. So ask away throughout the trip, but throughout the show, not the trip. I got trouble on my mind.
It's a trip. We're going to travel all together.
But yeah, today's theme is a little bit different because although we do usually focus very much on New Zealand on the NZ Travel Show, we do also run travel guides for Fiji, Tonga, Niue, Samoa and the Cook Islands. So we were thinking today that we would maybe focus on one of the nearby countries of New Zealand.
Indeed, so today in this video, as we are coming back from a long trip in Fiji, we are going to tell you everything that we wish we knew before we traveled to Fiji. So we run FijiPocketGuide.com, which is Fiji's largest travel guide. So there is a lot of information that we have in our heads and that we find that people just don't tend to know beforehand. So we've done our research, we have some personal takes, and we have some kind of more generic type of takes. And we're going to tell you everything you need to know if you're currently planning your trip to Fiji. If you have some questions or some comments along the way, get on the live chat right now and let's get started. Laura, what's the first thing you wish you knew about traveling to Fiji?
The first thing I wish I knew was how to pronunciate some of the local words and place names. So the spellings are very unusual in Fiji. A very common thing is that the letter C is actually pronounced like that TH
like
sound.
Laura?
Yeah. Sechiko.
Sechiko.
Yeah, so just like those sort of spellings are a little bit confusing if you are reading them obviously in an English way, then you are going to very wildly mispronounce some places.
And you may
as well.
not be understood whatsoever. So one of the main one that people do a mistake on is the island group, which is just outside of Nandi, which is the Mamanucas. Now, most people will read it Mamanuca, Mamanucas, Mamanucas is what most people do, Mamanusa, but it says the, so it's Mamanucas. Mamanucas. Oh, I don't know, something like that.
And
but
another one
you'll
that,
get closer,
Another one that's quite a common thing to sort of mess up is the letter Q is actually pronounced like ga. So like you might see the spelling, for instance, for Benga Island, which is actually BEQA. So that's like, there's just a few really strange spellings there, but we do have a whole sort of explainer on FijiPocketGuide.com going through how to pronounce the different unusual spellings in Fiji.
Indeed, and throughout this video we will be talking about Fiji Pocket Guide quite a lot. It is the largest travel guide for Fiji. There's plenty of information on here that you can check out for free. So feel free to follow along and head to FijiPocketGuide.com should you want to learn more about your trip to Fiji and also just plan it with the most updated guide to the country. Why not? So I'm actually going to change the order of what I have because I kind of want to kind of follow up a little bit on the language part. And so the one thing I wish I knew, and it really depends how your trip is going to be, right? It depends if you are going to be spending just time in a resort because you just want to fly and flop, and it's absolutely fine. You won't encounter this issue, right? But we're more the type of explorer. We like to go more to places a little bit more off the beaten track, check out local waterfalls, go to local villages, etc. And so we found out that in quite a fair amount of places, there is a little bit of a language barrier in Fiji, right? Don't expect everybody in rural area to be speaking fluently English and to have a very smooth kind of communication process right here. When it comes down to resort and accommodation, most of them will all be fluent in English and there's going to be no problem with that, but you may encounter a little bit of a language barrier in rural area. We see that a lot on travel blogs, so people that try to get a bit more off the beaten track usually kind of are the one that kind of come back with this kind of feedback. And one really good way to kind of approach that is to keep in mind that Fijian is their main language, right? So English is going to be a secondary language. So therefore, you want people to want to make the effort to speak to you in English, right? And so to do that, showing that you're willing to meet them halfway and learn a few local words really goes a long way. So if you get to learn a few more words beyond just the bula, and you can say things like Vadava Tiko. If you were to say Vadava Tiko, that means how are you doing in a very kind of casual way, and the answer to that is just said Tiko. Just even learning things like that really unlocks people and kind of show them that, you kind of know a few words and you're willing to kind of like learn a little bit, and then, they make an effort in your language, you make an effort in theirs, and it kind of works a lot. Now that said, if it seems too much hard work, just think about how much it will unlock for you, right? Usually the villagers will be so willing to kind of get out of the way and show you their way of living, their local hidden gems like the local waterfall, swimming hole and all that. And for us, this is probably some of the best kind of experiences that we've ever had, right? Where we literally get to hang out with a bunch of local kids and they kind of show you all the places around everything. So that's really, really cool. So the language, the Fijian language is fun to learn a few words of. I strongly advise you try that. So here you go. I thought that I'd do this one because you just talked about language.
Absolutely.
What else do you have on your list? What else would you wish you knew before you travel to Fiji?
Yeah, I guess the next thing would be the difference between taxis and sort of like hire car companies, or also known as like transfer companies. So when people sort of generally say taxi in Fiji, there may be two different versions of this. So there are the taxis, which are usually very easy to spot. They have their usual taxi sign. Their license plate, if they're registered, will always say LT at the beginning of their license plate.
So watch for that, because that means they're legally registered and, you know, it's a legit business.
Yeah, so those type of taxis, they are usually the cheapest taxis in Fiji. They usually run by the meter, at least within sort of, usually within like a 16-kilometer radius of the town that they're serving. And yeah, they are just more of your like the taxi sort of experience you might experience sort of internationally kind of works the same, where they run by the meter, and you know, usually you will need to pay in cash at the end. They don't have cards, they don't accept card for taxis in Fiji. But yeah, that's kind of like one version of a taxi in Fiji. However, there's another sort of what a lot of people still call taxis, but they're actually more hire companies. So their license plate will say LH at the beginning, and they usually have maybe branded logos on their vehicles saying, you know, Mike's Tours and Transfers, or Tawfiq's Tours and Transfers, which is a real life example. So for instance, they are still doing very similar services, taking you A to B around where you are, but they will have sort of set rates. They will usually be a little bit more expensive. However, you will find more, say, consistency in the service. The service might be slightly bit better than taxis, and you will usually have usually better vehicles than what taxis are in. So there's different versions of that, and the tours and transfer services, they usually can be booked in advance, whereas a taxi that runs on a meter is just a case of seeing one on the street, or maybe a local will call you a taxi type thing. But when somebody calls you a taxi as well, a hotel concierge, it's not always an actual taxi as a one that runs on the meter. It will usually be a tours and transfer taxi, and that will means it will be maybe a bit more expensive than what you're planning, but so I want to pitch in on that, because that's a really important one, right? So if you stay in a resort will have an agreement with a specific taxi company or transfer companies, and that's every single time you're going to ask them to book you a taxi or anything, that's the only one they're going to be calling, and it is widely more expensive, even using the same person. It has happened to us. We had the exact same driver going from resort A to destination B, and then from destination B back to resort A. It cost us 20 Fijian dollars to go out, and it cost us only 10 to get back in, because the resort has that agreement. So what's really good to do is to kind of get to know one company and start working with them for pretty much all of your transfer, because they can come and pick you up from the resort. If you call them before, the resort won't be calling them for you. So there is a lot of really good companies. There is one that we know and trust very well called Uniquely Fiji, that we really much recommend, because we think they have fair price and they have good services. So yeah, you may want to check those one out. Otherwise, just kind of go on our website, fijipocketguide.com, and there's plenty of others that you can choose and pick from. We've tried and tested all the companies that we're talking to. That's kind of what we do, so just go and check that out. But yeah, Laura is right, and I'm going to piggyback on this one as well for my next tip, and I'm going to talk about public transport in Fiji. So piggybacking on the fact that you have to use like taxis or transfers and everything like that, well, you kind of have to, because there is relatively limited public transport in the country of Fiji. Outside of the main island, like Viti Levu and Vanuatu, you can completely scrap that off. There is pretty much nothing, right? And even in Viti Levu and Vanuatu, traveling by bus is not that convenient. The local buses are very rough and sometimes inconsistent. We'll talk about Fiji time later, because I'm pretty sure Laura has that on her list, because I surely have that one on my list of things I wish I knew. So public transport very limited. So we see that a lot on like TripAdvisor forums, like heaps. People are kind of like, well, I arrived in Fiji and I didn't arrange like car rental or driver, and well, voila, I'm kind of stuck here and I need to organize everything kind of last minute, and it's a bit chaos and it's more expensive. So yeah, TripAdvisor, Lonely Planet, I see that all the time, and we don't hear that a lot from our viewers or our readers, because I think people have read our guide and kind of know more about it, but I got that elsewhere. So I'm trying to find
also like what people are complaining often, and the source as well, more than just my complaints or things I wish I knew. So like that, I think I'm trying to be preemptive right here and trying to help people ahead of the curve. So public transport in Fiji, relatively limited.
Yeah, that's right. You kind of, a lot of the public transport, you kind of need a bit of local knowledge. It's like the locals use the buses a lot. So, again, on Viti Levu and Vanua Levu, which are the two largest islands.
Viti Levu is the main island when you're going to arrive. When you're landing, you're in Nadi. Viti Levu is the main island. Vanua Levu is the second biggest island of Fiji.
It's just like one of those things that if you want to use those services, then you usually have to sort of ask around and usually have the time to spare as well.
Yeah. It's much less convenient. Yeah, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Shall we move on to the next?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So, speaking of traveling around and all that good stuff, by road in particular, I think an interesting thing to note about Fiji is that it can definitely be a road tripping country. So a lot of people sort of associate Fiji with island hopping, and taking a ferry between islands or flying between islands, that sort of thing. But the two largest islands that we were just talking about before, Viti Levu, which is the main island that people arrive on in Fiji, and then up north is Vanua Levu, and these two islands are both very large islands, and you can you can hire vehicles there, and you can actually spend multiple days sort of traveling around. Especially Viti Levu is more of a multi-day road tripping country where it has two main roads going sort of somewhat following the coast around the island. So you've got the Queen's Road going down south between Nadi and Suva, and then you've got the King's Road going between Nadi and Suva, taking the northern coast. So and throughout this road tripping experience, you're going through different regions. You're going along what's called the Sun Coast on the top of Viti Levu, which is known for amazing scuba diving. It's known for sort of waterfall village visits, that sort of thing. Caves there as well. So there's really cool sort of adventure experiences up there. And then as you're coming around, you're on the east coast, you have Suva, which is the capital, very much a sort of historical town, so there's a lot of interesting things to learn there. Then as you're coming back down around the southern coast, you are coming to the Pacific Harbour, which interestingly has whitewater rafting, it's got shark diving, it's got river tubing.
That's where Benga Island is that you were talking about.
You can also go scuba diving off the Benga Lagoon, just off the coast there, and then you'll come along to the Coral Coast, which is mainly known for its sort of high-end resorts and that sort of thing, but it's also got some good surfing, that sort of thing there as well, jet boating tours. And then finally you come back to Nadi. So you could do like a whole loop around, doing a sort of even like a week road trip of that one island. So if that's your style of travel, that's very different than what a lot of people sort of picture Fiji to be. We have just come back from a trip doing exactly that on Viti Levu and experiencing it more from the road tripping side. And well worth considering as a very different sort of South Pacific island experience.
All right, Adil has asked us to reduce the volume of the background music, which I've done. I mean, it is at -4. It was at -45 decibels, so I believe at -47. We'll see if that works.
Yeah.
But that was. I mean, I think it's not even. It looks like there's not even music anymore. So interesting.
Yeah, let us know how that's going for you guys.
Nice. So Laura's right. There is really a lot to explore in Fiji on the islands. Doing a road trip is really awesome. It's a great way to see a lot of what Fiji has to offer. And my next kind of things I wish I knew about traveling to Fiji is actually having to do with transport again. Yes. And it's about heading to different islands. So pretty much every time you're going to be sold a trip to Fiji by whomever, they will kind of sell you a resort somewhere on one of the outer islands, and it sounds well and fun, but getting to the island always trips people up, like every single time, right? So I've seen that on Fiji travel blogs, but also on TripAdvisor, like half of the things to talk about, like that people are talking about. How do I get to that island? I booked my resort and now I realize it's $500 or $600 to get to that island. This is always something that trips people up between flights and just basically any type of island transfer or boat. It is quite expensive to go in between islands. Fiji is made of 333 different islands, so budget for that, plan ahead for that, right? It is worth it to go to the outer island, definitely, right? But you got to think how you're going to get there before you book it. And I think that is a mistake that so many people are doing. You book your accommodation and then you try to figure things out later. No, figure out how easy it is to get there first and then book it. I cannot stress that enough.
Yes.
This is half of what's happening on the travel forums nowadays. That's crazy. I feel like we always mention that on the guide. We always talk about, like, you know, island transfers and all that. We give a lot of different options and all these kind of things. Fiji Link is the branch of Fiji Airways that does flight island transfers to like most of the main islands that have an airport. Not all of them have. But you need to plan for that, and they're doing a really good job. It's great. Even if sometimes the flights are full, they will literally put extra flight for extra resort for groups, etc. They're seriously really awesome and really flexible. But you need to have plans for that. So, and even when you arrive at the airport, you need to do the transfer from the airport to the resort. All those kind of things. That can be another $100. So just think about it. Plan ahead and then book your accommodation, not the other way around. So it's your plan, you transfer first, and you don't necessarily have to book it, but you know, you plan, you transfer first, you budget for it, you understand how it is, you understand the timing of it, because that also may mean that you have to spend a night on the mainland and then head there, right? So just planning ahead is really important. So the order of things is figure out how you get from point A to point B and then book point B. Not the other way around. That's what I see pretty much everybody doing. So yeah, that'd be
good advice.
Yes. All right. So I'm gonna stop telling off people. It's your turn.
I think I will sort of talk about my next point, which is actually to do with getting away from the main island, which is if you are looking for a great deal of things to do, if you're looking for variety in terms of activities, then the best islands to head for, in my opinion, are Vanuatu and Taveuni, which are two relatively large islands in the northern part of Fiji. If a lot of what Fiji is known for is, you know, going to a resort and sort of just doing the activities that are sort of confined to the resort or in the nearby area. And actually, there's not that much variety when it comes to island groups like Viti Levu, the main island, and say Mamanuthas and Yasawas, where most people visit. But however, if you go up north to Vanuatu and Taveuni, the amount of things to do up there is actually pretty insane. There's for instance, on both of those islands, you can go to lots of amazing waterfalls. A lot of easy sort of day trips or half-day trips can be taken to those waterfalls. You can do hiking through beautiful jungles. You can do bird watching. You can go to do pearl farm tours, so you can see how pearl jewelry is made, that sort of thing. And between these two islands as well is the Rainbow Reef, which is one of the sort of most famous scuba diving and snorkeling places in the whole of Fiji, but it's actually because it isn't right next to the main island, a lot of people just never manage to get up there. But making that extra 1 hour flight journey to get to either one of these islands and do your sort of scuba diving and snorkeling from there is definitely well worth it. And yeah, even around Vanuatu in different areas, you have the main town, the main tourist hub, Savu, which has different sort of areas for scuba diving and snorkeling as well. So you can really have lots of different experiences there. They have hot pools as well, beautiful hot springs and hot pools. The list goes on. It's really quite extensive. So if you really want to see a variety of unique things to do, and you are more of an active traveller and you want to do active adventures, that sort of thing, then Vanuatu and Taveuni are definitely the places that you'll want to head to.
I'm going to take a second to take the question from Travel in My 50s, saying, how do Bora Bora and Fiji compare? We're thinking of visiting one of those places, well, maybe both. So I think it's important to note that Fiji is like much larger when it comes down to like the wealth of different islands as well as different cultures. And you're gonna get Fiji is an entire country. Bora Bora is one island in French Polynesia. So heading to Bora Bora, you'll have one type of culture, one type of experience, slightly French, slightly Polynesian, you know, a little bit of that, right? But while heading to Fiji, even while just doing a road trip, as Laura was saying, you're gonna get a breadth of different cultures and experiences throughout. So I think the way it compares, you're probably gonna get better food in Bora Bora, but you're probably gonna get a much more diverse experience when visiting Fiji. That'd be like obviously the very short cliff note of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to move on to sustainability. I mean, should you care or not, you know, our planet is full of plastic, full of pollution, and that kind of sucks. I think we can all agree on that. Now, in Fiji, there is obviously more of an impact on that because, you know, waste management is much harder in small island nations and all these kind of things, right? That said, well, you also have less access to like drinking water and all, you know, safe drinking water, from the tap, etc., right? So a lot of people rely on bottled water. Now at $8 in resort for a bottle of water, you're gonna spend a fortune on that and you're gonna kill the planet by using so much damn plastic. So buy yourself a live straw bottle. I cannot stress it enough. We're not paid by those people, by the way, but buy yourself a live straw bottled water, which has a straw that will filtrate it. You can literally fill it up in puddles. We've done it, and it streams anything, and you will be able to drink safe water throughout your trip without having to, you know, give money to those bastards that fill the planet of plastic. Also, make wise choices. There is very obvious examples of companies which are doing greenwashing. I'm watching you, Hilton Hotel, that say that you're doing everything green, but then you literally go to the cafe and the pineapple is in plastic cups. I mean, come on.
Well, that was Sheraton, but...
That was Sheraton,
yeah.
sorry. I'm pretty sure Hilton does the same. Actually, I can't remember seeing that at Hilton. But yeah, I'm seeing you, Sheraton. Sorry, yes. Hilton. Yeah. So when we travel around destinations, we do every end of the spectrum, right? From the backpacking all the way to the high-end kind of resort. And that's true as the higher you go, the more polluting usually it is. But there are some places which are blatantly kind of greenwashing things, saying they don't want to give you a straw, but the pineapple is with the plastic fork and stuff. That's what happened to me last time, and I was really pissed.
Yeah.
I cannot let that go, Sheraton. That's shocking. So yeah, so do make some wise choices when it comes to that. There is plastic all over Fiji, but you can easily avoid it.
Yeah. Speaking of downers, since we're on the subject of
we'll get
downers,
back up soon. We'll get back on the positive stuff soon.
Just so we can get these all out of the way. I think another thing for Fiji that sort of surprised me or wasn't prepared for was sort of seeing the segregation between the rich and the poor. So in Fiji, which makes it very unlike other South Pacific nations that we personally cover, we talk about Tonga, Samoa, those sort of places where it feels like you're very much traveling and it's sort of an integrated experience of those countries. Whereas in Fiji, you are if you're staying at very high-end resorts, they're very much, you know, very luxurious, very lavish, but gated off away from the
very
rest.
thick wall between you and literally just next door.
But however, if you see how the locals live, the local Fijians and Indo-Fijians, obviously very much simplistic, humble lives, that you know, feels very much a world away from the experiences people are having in those very high-end resorts, which are literally just next door. You have to pretty much, you know, if you're doing your transfer between, say, the airport and your resort, you are driving through these poor communities and stuff like that. So it's just sort of that sort of, you're very much smacked in the face in terms of, you know, seeing those segregations. Although we're very much aware of this, I guess, happening around the world, obviously.
Yeah, it's definitely not unique to Fiji.
It's not unique to Fiji, but I guess when you're at home, sort of, you don't see everything that's happening everything that's happening in the world, but when you get to Fiji, it's very much evident there, you know, that, you know, there's a lot of injustices in the world. So if you're looking to sort of escape from all of that, then it's probably you're not probably going to see that so much in Fiji. Yeah, it's good to be not so ignorant about all those things as well. So it's just so you know.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to more positive things, or just kind of more kind of travel related things. But I do agree with you, Laura. So the other thing that I have on my list is the fact that Fiji is not just that one postcard island of that beach and the coconut trees, right? Not all the beaches are white sand. There are some black sand beaches in Fiji. Not all the beaches are sands. There is a lot of like rocky areas
Like
corally and all that. And not all the best Fiji experiences are related to going to the beach. And so, and I feel like pretty much everybody is showing up to Fiji with that picture perfect kind of paradise combed beach from the resort and everything. But, heading out and going swim with, reef shark, manta rays, snorkeling above the coral, heading out to some of the tropical forest to uncover waterfalls, heading to the local village to go see how they live and kind of experience that as well. Doing some awesome hike in like sand dune national parks. All those kind of things are like really, really unique and amazing experiences in Fiji. Yet everybody shows up with that one picture of that postcard in mind, because I think that's what every company, every travel agent, every promotion always sells. But there is so much more to Fiji than that. And so I see that a lot in like, especially in expat forums. So that people that kind of come a little bit more for a longer period of time, right? And they do realize that basically all the things they like the most about Fiji have nothing to do with that white sand beach.
Yeah.
Right? And so I see that a lot in like expat forums and places like that. And to be fair, that's, traveling regularly to Fiji with Laura is always a thing that when we talk about the thing that we really enjoy, we really never have that day we lazed out on the beach.
No.
Like it's never ever been a one that ever made our top or anything like that. It's always a different experience, right? So I think that is something that I want people to know first. So here you go. Know before you go. Laura, next up. I don't know if you agree or not, but...
I definitely agree. I feel like the best experiences in Fiji are the beaches. There's some nice beaches, of course, but
some of them are full of rocks.
But some of them are full of rocks. And they'll get you.
To be fair, some of the like nice rocky kind of beach is actually where we get some of the best photos, if you remember. Nice. All right, you go.
All right, next we shall talk about, so a really cool experience in Fiji is always going to visit Fijian villages. They live they have really good sort of traditional way of life where they do have certain like ceremonies, like kava ceremonies, these sort of things that are really interesting to witness and be part of, and you will experience them. You can either go basically to villages independently or you will go as part of a tour. But what I'm getting to is that
She's getting there.
I'm getting to a point. Often when you go to villages, you may want to bring a donation. And a lot of tours will also sort of encourage this, especially sort of multi-day tours where they say, if you want to bring a donation, here's some suggestions. But a donation that we see a lot of people give, and admittedly something that is a mistake that we've made ourselves on our first trip to Fiji, is bringing confectionery as a donation to the kids.
Boo us.
Oh, yeah. By that I just mean basically food and sweets. Lollies, candy. That is, first of all, usually you are bringing stuff that is wrapped in plastic, and guess where that goes? Once you give it to people, it goes straight onto the floor. So that's like obviously an issue in adding to the sort of rubbish waste of Fiji, which is not a nice thing. But also, it's just that is not going to enhance anyone's lives for more than 2 seconds. That sort of like donation is like, nobody needs sweets. Like that's going to make somebody feel good for like I say, 2 seconds, and then it's over, and then you haven't really brought anything that's going to make much of an impact on people's lives. In fact, it's more likely to give a negative impact. So what some tour companies do, which is really good, is that they will give you a list of donations that are more needed in these very remote communities.
And they can be odds. They can be really weird. Usually it's large bras, large size bras. Notebooks are always big ones. What else is usually on the list?
It's typically school supplies.
Yeah, school supplies.
So it's like, you know, stationery, notebooks, like exercise books that the kids can write in. Like you said,
glasses, reading glasses.
So there are some much better things that you can bring, and especially like if you're a bit lost for what to bring, like school supplies is always a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's going to have a much better impact than bringing sweets and confectionery to a village. If you are visiting a village on your own or even on a tour and you want to bring something, then the locals are usually very grateful for those types of donations.
Indeed. All right, so the next thing I have on my list, and a lot of the next few things I have on my list are going to be to do with like costs and prices and everything like that. So I would like to start with the importance of cash, right?
Yes.
It is really important to carry cash with you in Fiji, right? Not everybody accept card. Actually, a lot of people don't accept card. As soon as you go to the outer island, they probably won't accept card whatsoever. If they accept cards, it costs a lot of money. There's no reason for a banker to make 2.5% of anything you're spending. So that will make your trip cheaper as well to carry cash and pay everything with cash. You can definitely withdraw cash from the ATM, especially if you want to go to any markets, or even, to be fair, we're paying for accommodations and all those kind of things in cash, because it is just easier and it's better for the locals, and you know that it's always going to be accepted. And you transport, you can always pay in cash, all these kind of good things. There are ATMs in a lot of places on the main islands of Fiji, but not too many in the outer islands. So plan ahead and have a bit of cash with you, especially if you want to tip as well, which we'll talk about tipping a bit later. Or at least I will talk about tipping. You will?
Not about tipping.
Okay.
No.
Oh, okay. I don't want to spoil your list, so I'm going to stop right now. Cash. Any of the travel guides that you're going to be reading, they all talk about cash. We talk about cash. All the travel guides talk about cash. And again, the expat forums, a lot of them are talking about the fact that cash is king in the islands. And if you don't use cash, you lose cash. And damn, we shouldn't lose cash.
Yes. So I also have pretty much the same item on my list, which is more, my quick notes was just credit card charges. Mine was just credit card charges.
Yes.
So everywhere that you go and you use card, you will be charged it's usually like 2.5 to 3.5% of every transaction.
Yeah.
That can add up a lot for you. Even the vendors don't really necessarily like credit card too much. It's more of a necessity that people feel like they need to have it nowadays. But whatever you can pay in cash is a saving for you, a saving for the vendors as well. We talked a lot about sort of visiting different villages, and like sometimes the locals will show you their local swimming hole, that sort of thing, and it's always like nice to just give like a bit of a monetary donation as well. If usually they will ask, or not even ask, something between 10 to 25 Fijian dollars per person. So just for
as a couple, we always leave like 50 Fijian dollars. That's kind of like the minimum, for like just like somebody taking you somewhere. And then if they do go above and beyond, you obviously give a little bit more, of course. Yeah.
So just having that cash available for those sort of spontaneous experiences that you might have not planned for is always nice as well.
Yeah. So let's talk about those donations and those kind of things. Let's talk about tipping, right?
Yeah.
So unlike a lot of other countries, tipping is not mandatory in Fiji. It's not necessarily expected in Fiji. It's not really something that you have to do in Fiji. In some places, let's say you're doing a cruise or you're doing this, there is some specific type of activities where tipping is expected, because that's kind of like how this industry works. For example, cruises, etc. Right? That said, if you do get really good service, right, tipping goes a really long way, right? Even a 10% tip goes a really, really long way to a lot of local Fijians. So it's not something to kind of forget. If you have a life and you been saying that for like 3 or 4 nights, right? And then remember what you like or how you take coffee in the morning, all those kind of things. A tip goes such a long way over there in Fiji. It's so worth doing. But a tip is only worth doing if you do it in cash. Yes. Because most of the time when you tip on those kind of machines or anything like that, you know, with credit card and everything, goes to a fund. The company actually takes some out of it. It doesn't really go to the person you wanted it to go to. That's a truth that we've heard a lot. So yeah, tipping not mandatory, but very much appreciated and goes a very long way. This information, something again, I'm sourcing everything on our website. We talk about it on Experience a lot, obviously, but also even on the official Fiji tourism website, etc., is mentioned.
Yeah. Cool. Speaking of sort of, you know, customary protocols, that sort of thing, the next item on my list is that the cultural protocols in Fiji are real. They are a thing. And, you know, anything that you hear about, you know, some of the...
I have that as well, so I'm pretty sure we're on the same wavelength on this one.
I guess like a lot of tourists might think, oh, but they know that we're tourists, so they can forgive us if we, you know, go into a village in our super short shorts, or we, you know, we don't wear a sulu, or we, you know, those sort of things, or we wear a hat in a village, that sort of thing. But all those examples I just gave you, in a village, it is seen as, you know, it's
okay, so I think what you get to your mind, I think I'm going to give some examples so like that we have something to talk about, right? So don't wear a hat when you are going in a village, right? And same thing if you do have sunglasses, don't put your sunglasses above your head. You will just put them down here if you wanted to. But don't put things on top of your head when you go to villages, even if it's really hot. If you're a lady, you know, the shoulders must be covered, and especially the legs, right? So don't walk around in your bathing suit or in your short short. Just put a sulu, a sarong, any of the local words for that, you know, in your country. Just have one of them with you. It's important to respect their customs. It means nothing against you. It's just you respecting them. So it's a really important way to kind of look at that. You know, switch the lens, right? It's like, oh, I don't have to cover. I'm a free woman. We get it. Laura does get it. Yeah, she covers every time because that's how it is, right? That's kind of the culture there. When you go into a village and you want to talk to a chief, or you you want to approach any of the elders or anything like that, bring a gift. That's called sevu sevu, and that's important. When we travel on a road trip around, we always have some kava at the back of the car. Please don't break in my car when you see me traveling around. But we always have some kava roots, which is the local traditional drink, and we're going to we're bringing it, we're offering it to the village. And literally sometimes it's just like some of the kids are going to take you to the village chief. You offer the sevu sevu, and the chief says, "Yep, you just take them around. It's all good." You know, it can be that quick, right? But it's kind of like the way to do things, right? Any other kind of cultural thing that kind of like really strike tourists? I think that's the main ones,
the main ones.
Okay, cool. So do respect them. Now, good. I just wanted to give some example. Adil is asking what's a sulu. A sulu is like a sarong. It's basically a piece of cloth which is kind of relatively large that you can wrap around to cover your legs.
And another thing is, although say you're not going into a village, you don't necessarily have to wear a sulu or a sarong when you're going into towns, but also note that the people, like the locals in the towns, are all, you know, people that have lived in villages, or they do care about those things as well. So although you don't have to go like with the full sarong, just wearing clothes that are a little bit more modest than maybe what you might wear at your resort is a good idea as well. Although locals won't say anything to you because they're really, you know, they're really polite. That's just not in their nature to sort of be confrontational or anything. They we have spoken to locals before where they're like, yeah, we do care about that, and it does kind of, you know, it kind of upsets us a little bit that people don't respect those customs, but
and if you're French, don't bring your speedos either, right? Just like, you know, it goes both way, right? Just putting it out there.
Board shorts are usually what is preferable for the guys to wear for swimming, that sort of thing. So
speedos are no go.
So basically those cultural things, they won't, you know, just because you're a tourist, you can't just think you can get away with like, oh, they won't care because I'm a tourist, but they do care.
You don't bring your own cultures there, you come in to experience their culture, so respect goes both ways. All right, so I'm going to continue a little bit with the costs and everything. I've been talking about costs and everything. The next thing I want to talk about is getting access to internet, right? Getting access to internet is expensive in Fiji. It's not that easy, and even the phone plans are relatively complex to understand. So yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, you need to be prepared for that, right? And we have full guide on Fiji Pocket Guide, so you can do your own research and know what works for you. But it don't work as simple as just getting that plan and the internet works. Sometimes you get a plan, but then some of your credit that was used on data will be used for that text because that plan doesn't include any text. There's those kind of things. It can become chaotic relatively quickly, which can get a little annoying, right? So just to be aware of that. And also, free Wi-Fi is not a thing everywhere. You know, it's not something you're gonna get. Like every accommodation is gonna have free Wi-Fi and everything. A lot of accommodation have Wi-Fi, but not all of them. And the more remote you go, the more you're gonna have to be a bit flexible. So it's gonna be on the internet in certain hours, only in the main lounge, all those kind of things, right? So do be aware of that. You coming to Fiji for experiencing Fiji. Not necessarily to browse the internet, I hope. So do be aware that you may not be able to browse the internet as much as you want. So yeah, and most of the internet is, you know, satellite. Adil saying, "Oh, good is the internet connection on the island." On the main island, it's actually decent. It's pretty good, right? Yeah. It will depend on your location. The more remote you go, the harder it is to get, you know, to actually. It's going to be slow and painful. But to be fair, a resort when we didn't even have power in our room. That was like a really eco resort and everything like that. I successfully did a video conference call with bankers, believe it or not, from the main lounge. So it still did work. So, you know, it's workable, definitely workable. Just have to be aware that it's just not as straightforward. So plan ahead, read our guide on like the travel SIM card and all that, pick the right one, pick a local one. That is, for example, Fiji is not a country where I would get like one of those international eSIM or anything, or it's not a country either where I would rely on roaming at all. I will definitely get a local SIM card for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Fair?
Fair.
Next up.
All right. So yeah, next up for me is that in Fiji, in terms of things to do and experiences, there is something for everyone. But on the other hand, not all experiences are for everyone.
Yes,
if that
that's
makes
true.
Sense.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Compared to say like other South Pacific nations, they might be very much geared toward adventure experiences, that sort of thing. But however, in Fiji, you can do adventure, you can do relaxation, you can party, you can, what else is there to do? You can just eat. Cultural experiences. So you really have everything across the spectrum. But although, you know, some activities might sound like a great idea, they aren't necessarily great for everyone. Like even for me, there are some activities in Fiji that I personally don't particularly like because that's just not my type of activity. But if I compare it to activities, say, like in small island nations where there's a lot less to do, if you do any of their activities there, well, that's the only thing to do there. It's usually, you know, catered to anyone that is interested in going to those nations. However, in Fiji, there's a lot of activities that are perhaps taken ideas from different nations as well to try and cater to everyone. Maybe it sounds like a good idea, but is maybe a little bit weird or a little bit off. So maybe some tourist traps in there as well is what I'm getting to. So a bit of research.
Yeah, so the way to solve that is...
doing a bit of research into the activities, maybe seeing, so, you know, you're on YouTube right now, maybe watching some video reviews of what that activity looks like, or, you know, having a read on, again, Fiji Pocket Guide to see the different, like, descriptions of what each activity is like. Or
we
what
go
they
in
involve.
depth, we experience those places, we go there for you, so you will know what you get every time you read, you know, our take on those activities. Just do, it is well worth doing some research and not just going along with something quite random because it seems like a good idea, because there's a wide scope of activities. Indeed.
All
right, next up, mosquitoes and insect repellent. You must have some. You must have enough of it. Don't get the DEET one. It's pretty horrible and it stinks and it's bad for you and for everything. We have plenty of suggestions on Fiji Pocket Guide that we try. Every time we travel to the islands, we bring a bunch of like 4 or 5 different brands that we try on ourselves to know which one works and which one doesn't. So even on the last trip to Fiji, we have like 4 or 5 different ones that we tried, so we know which one to recommend. Guess what? The natural one actually do work and it's great. Don't go to Fiji without the proper amount of mosquito and insect repellent. Don't do it. Pack some. That's it. What mobile network available in Fiji? Which one would you recommend? Is Ideal says. So there is only 2 of them, right? There is Digicel or Vodafone. I think Digicel is the best one for what we have done because they can get the dongle as well where you can get the internet. But both of them will work if you stay on the main island. Just find the one that kind of is working best for your phone.
Yeah.
And if you want to know more about it, check out our articles. We do have really lengthy kind of article explaining why and how. But if you're planning on kind of exploring more of the Iota Islands and everything, Digicel has more of a presence. There's more shops around where you can go inside the shop and talk to someone if you need some help, etc. So yeah. But yeah, there is, like, obviously I need to tell you much more information about it. So head to Fiji Pocket Guide. There is 3 or 4 articles going to everything in detail. Next up, Laura.
Okay, I think this is our last one, right?
I have 4 more.
Oh, wow. Okay, then. Well, this is, I think, my last one.
Which is why I'm kind of like spinning up a little bit. We're closing into the hour, so yeah.
All right, yeah.
But mosquito repellent, you need to have some.
So one thing that surprised me about Fiji is that everything that you hear about the South Pacific Islands is that Sundays are always really quiet. There's nothing to do on a Sunday because the communities are very, very Christian. They all go to church on a Sunday, so there will be nothing for you to do. All the shops will be closed, blah, blah, blah. But that's not really the case in Fiji.
Yeah, Fiji is the exception in the Pacific. We say that about all of the South Pacific Islands. Fiji is probably the exception.
Yeah, so although local Fijians are mostly Christian, the thing about Fiji is that it is much more of a multicultural country. So there are people of Indian heritage there, Chinese, European as well. So it's with this sort of diverse cultures, that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole country closes down on a Sunday. There's usually a lot of still activities to do, a lot of shops and services open, and there may be the odd thing that closes on a Sunday, but you can still do quite a lot on a Sunday.
I agree. Complete opposite spectrum from the Sunday, booze and alcohol. Okay, so that comes, again, as source, most of the stuff I'm talking about, well, for the mosquitoes, by the way, or experience, everybody's experiences. That's the source.
Yeah.
All right, booze. Booze is really expensive in Fiji. It costs a lot of money to get drunk in Fiji. Questions that we get a lot, mostly from Kiwis and Australians going to travel to Fiji, is like, can I bring my own booze to Fiji? Should I bring my own booze? How much booze can I put into my body when I'm in Fiji with that amount of money, etc.? I'm not joking. People are so focused on getting completely plastered in resorts and everything. So a couple of things. First up, it's expensive. Second, can you bring your own alcohol? Yeah, you can buy it at the duty free. Respect the current amount that you can get.
The allowances.
Allowances, and then you can bring your booze over there, right? If you're going on a cruise or anything like that, if you're planning on doing that, it will be taken away from you, so you won't be able to use your own booze. But if you go into most resort, if you do it in, if you drink in your room, if you're a sad sack on top of your bed, you absolutely can do that. No problem at all. Third point, if you want to get yourself a drink plan, there are many resorts which are catering literally for you Kiwis and Australians that want to just stay in a resort and get completely drunk all day long. You can put your kids into the kids club and you can get yourself your alcohol bundle and get absolutely plastered. It works and it gets down to be cheaper as long as you're having more than 5 beers a day. So if you're having 5 beers or 2 spirits, usually when you kind of do the math, it is better for you to get the booze plan. No, you cannot share in between a couple. You have to have your own booze plan each. That's basically how that works. I don't have much to say. That's not really the way we travel. It's not really the thing that we care about. It's just a question that we get a lot. Anything to add on the booze?
Not really.
Yeah. The Ratu Fiji is actually some decent one. I do like it. Yeah.
So Fiji has a lot of its own, sort of products that are made in Fiji when it comes to alcohol.
And they're really
and
good at making really good cocktails and everything.
So you may want to, instead of bringing your own, or even if you do bring your own, the duty-free allowances aren't that big for people that want to get absolutely shit-faced or plastered, or I shouldn't say that on YouTube.
Yeah. And there's two main local beer. There's Fiji Bitter and Fiji Gold. Which one's your favorite?
Gold, I guess.
Okay, they're just like both really basic, kind of refreshing beers. So
yeah. So there's plenty, and
there you
Fiji Bitter and Fiji Gold are the two cheapest beers that you'll get. Any imported beers are more expensive. So if you want to go,
I don't know if there's any premium locally made beers.
No, I didn't notice any.
Yeah, me neither. Okay.
Yeah.
Adil says, it seems I'm the only person watching this live show. There's 4 people, but yeah, no, it's usually we talk about New Zealand on this channel, so talking about Fiji usually gets a drop of viewership, but that's okay. It's live. We don't do YouTube because we won't have a billion people watching. We just want to be useful, helpful even. Laura, do you have anything else? Or
no?
Okay,
keep
cool.
going.
No worries. All right, next up we're having understanding Fiji time.
Yes.
I want people to understand that in the islands, when something starts at 10, probably going to start at 10:30. Just chill about it. It's called Fiji time for a reason. Things are going slower. If you think something's going to take 10 minutes, it'll take half an hour. It's okay. I'm mostly talking to myself right here. I'm a very organized, very like by the time, by the
by the hour.
by
sort
the
of
hour,
guy.
exactly, yeah, by the minute even. But yeah, Fiji is relaxed, unhurried.
Yes.
Take that in. It's okay. If your driver doesn't show up on time, there's no reason for you to be grumpy and angry about it. The onus is on you. Fiji time is a thing. You should have known about it before. Book it for an earlier time. Book your pickup for 20 minutes earlier if you're that stressed.
Yeah.
It's okay. If it comes down to departures of boats or those kind of things, usually it's relatively on time.
Yes.
It works well. When it comes down to flights, they depart on time. Yes. But when it comes down to everything else, unhurried. That's the word I want to leave you with. Unhurried. But it's a good thing. That helps you relax, unplug. I don't really have to kind of give you some sources for Fiji time. Let's be honest. It's everywhere. Everybody knows about it. Everyone tell everybody about it, like Facebook groups and all that. So it's all about like
the locals will tell you Fiji time too.
They're gonna say, oh, let's we pick you up at 8 Fiji time.
Yeah.
So be ready around 8, but it'll show up.
Yeah.
It'll happen. All right. So yeah, so that wraps up all the things that we wish we knew before we traveled to Fiji. I'm pretty sure we missed a lot of them, but there is a link in the description below to Fiji Pocket Guide where we have plenty of tips. In fact, the link that happened below is 30 tips you need to know before you travel to Fiji. So there is some research for you right here. And yeah, head to the website. We update it all the time. We travel to Fiji regularly to make sure that we have the latest up-to-date information to help you plan your trip. It's free to visit the site. If you want to help us, you can click on all the little buttons that YouTube gives you to interact with us. And if you want even help us more, you can head to Fiji Pocket Guide and share it on social media, because we don't really do much on social media because it's social media. And yeah, happy days. Oh, and if you're stressed about the internet, you can actually download the whole travel guide for a very small fee. You can find that somewhere on the website. There is some prompt for you to do so. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you back next week for another theme. Bye bye everyone.
See you next week.
Sotatale.
Sotatale.
So that means see you later.
later.
And mode means goodbye, isn't it?
That's correct.
Here you go. Mode and sotatale.